Hello everyone, welcome to the Social Club Transfer Specials. Flav is here, celebrity Spurs fan.
That's not going in.
Presenter of the Fighting Cock podcast,
Yeah.
presenter of Talking Balls on this very channel. I've had you scrabbling round all morning looking for Spurs transfer news because it's been really thin on the ground this summer.
You know what? There was this leak on the kit. The Spurs kit came out, and there was this new feature, this badge. It's not a big deal really, but it came out weeks and weeks before the kit did. And since then, the club seemed to have closed shop, and there's nothing coming out. Yeah. I mean, we're similar like Liverpool this year have been linked with absolutely everyone under the sun, and Spurs usually do get that, but this year it's been barren, like alarmingly so. It's like, are they doing anything at all? Is anything happening at Tottenham other than building the stadium? Well,
it's genuinely fascinating because I've already spoken to Nicky this week, and similar kind of thing to him. He said last summer their chairman come out and said, we're going to sign X, Y and Z. They didn't, everyone flipped. So this summer they've shut it down and everyone's flipping because they can't get any news.
Yeah, there's the problem with football fans is they look at transfers and they just see that they've been playing Football Manager for 10 years. Tens of years. And they think it's just about. I think they think this is just about putting a bid in, and it's become a bit of a laugh. You know, bid, accept, agree wages, he joins. But it really is such a protracted, difficult thing to sign a footballer, and so it's not surprising. No one's done a great deal of business. You've signed Salah, Spurs have signed no one. What I worry though is if we wait too long. We went quite early with Wanyama. We signed him quite earlier on, but then we ended up buying Vincent Janssen and the man I will not mention. Yeah,
well, it's actually interesting because we've got some questions. We normally do them at the end, but we'll throw a couple in because I think they relate to this. And Joe Pill asks, who will be our last-minute Sissoko-esque panic buy of the transfer window that we'll try and justify to ourselves as good and worth 30 million?
We've been living off that last, so there was this reputation that Daniel Levy had that he always waits till last to get the best deal, and then that sort of Levy time, which is kind of embarrassing in itself. But it happened once when we signed Rafa van der Vaart.
Yeah,
and we got that over the line a few minutes after the deadline. Since then, I think we've signed Moussa Sissoko for 30 million. There's argument about how much we actually paid, but that's a fee.
I mean, unless you paid nothing for him, it's a bad deal either way.
Yeah. So I have no idea. I can't. The problem with Tottenham, right? We've got at the moment, we've got a great first 11, very good, one of the best in the league, right? And to upgrade on that's very difficult, very difficult. And we need bodies in there. I think we signed Sissoko because we thought he could do some. I don't know. There must have been some thought behind signing him. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to find it. But he does at times have pace and skill, and we've seen none of it really.
No, he had a tremendous Euros. I thought he looked excellent for France in that, and I mean all the Newcastle fans were rubbing their hands together with glee, thinking we'll get some money for him, and lo and behold, they were right.
Yeah.
So there's definitely there must have been reason. There was definitely a player in there of some description. But in terms of what Spurs need, then. Because you say, great first 11 and maybe 12 or 13, absolute, of a same level of quality. So is it just bodies then?
I think you should always look to improve your first 11. I think if you're going to spend, then it's about spending to improve. I understand the logic in buying squad players because injury and whatnot. But it is difficult. How much do we have to spend to improve the first 11? A lot of money. Yeah. If you want to buy a backup striker to Kane, we were linked with Josh King, but it's been mooted that he's not that keen to come to Spurs because when's he going to play?
Yeah,
he's going to play in the group stages of the Champions League. Sort of ingrained in me, the Europa League. Maybe some League Cup games, but he's on form. He's firing for Bournemouth. Don't leave or go to a club that's going to give you time. Everton are in for him, so we'll see what happens there. But it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. You look at, if you're looking at a number 10, Eriksen was incredible last season. Ali was. How much you have to pay to improve on them? It's very difficult. So,
are there any obvious spaces then? Because I mean, it looks like Kyle Walker likely to leave this window. You guess. So you're looking at presumably a straight replacement for him. And then other than that, if you had to nail down 2 or 3 positions that you'd be like, if I had the money, that's where I'd be spending it.
I'd spend money on a right-sided. I'd spend if I had to lump money on it, would be I'd buy another centre back, and I would buy a player that can fit in that three behind Kane, or the three up top if we play 3-4-3. So Lamar we've been linked with from Monaco. He looks exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know much more about him. He's had a fairly decent season for them.
Well, we had a quick.
So it'd be those two positions. So.
Yeah, well, very much like plays from the left as well. I think he played the entire last season playing from left wing. Only 21, 14 goals and 17 assists in 55.
And he's pacey. It's exciting, isn't he? So that would be a nice signing. That kind of attacking. But I think we're good enough as we are as a first 11 to challenge again if Wembley isn't a massive issue. So it's very, very tricky. I'm not surprised we're not linked with a great deal of players.
Just a couple of the players then that the Spurs have been linked with. As you mentioned, Joshua King. I will go through the names, but all of these make sense to me. They all feel like the kind of players that Spurs would sign. I think Josh King, he's the right age. You know, he's 25. Very much his breakout season last year for Bournemouth, although he played a little bit more, he's more of a centre forward, even though I think he plays as a second striker predominantly. But I think he fits the bill for you guys. You look at Suso was linked a bit the other week, former Liverpool player, lit up Serie A for AC Milan, plays from the right hand side. He's one of them. He's got good feet. He's very skillful. He's an intelligent footballer. Use kind of stockpile those kind of players. I think centre mids, obviously. You've had nothing but centre mids for the last 15 years.
You want to buy another one apparently as well.
Well, yeah. And then just because you'd look at Christian Eriksen and say, you know, he's not lightning, is he? He's not particularly robust physically.
No.
But you've managed to get well, not just a tune out of him, but a symphony.
He was incredible, absolutely incredible last season. On the Fighting Cock podcast, I come in for a bit of stick from the people that listen to it because there was a time just over a year ago I said if we have to upgrade on one player, Eriksen's the easiest one to do it. I didn't think he was doing enough, but in my limited understanding of football and tactics and the way the game's played, and once people started to explain it to me in depth, he does a lot. He does a lot off the ball. He just wasn't delivering the number of assists and goals you'd hope. But last year he was fantastic, and essentially finding that space between the midfield and defence. He's like a ghost. He doesn't look like he does much, but he's massively important to Pochettino's team. So yeah, ultimately it all comes down to Poch. You know, I would be comfortable, and I'll get slated for saying this, right? But I would be comfortable if we sold Walker and Trippier just comes in and sits in that right hand side. So yeah, the only other player that's being strongly linked is Adrian Silva. He's at Sporting Lisbon. You watched a tremendous video review of him. Yeah, I can't remember what he's called.
Some of YouTube's finest. We'll try. We'll doubtless mention this in future videos because he was incredible. But at 28 years old, he doesn't seem to fit the profile for what Spurs would normally go for. Not especially, but centre mid DM, so he does in that regard. I think 6 goals and 4 assists in 37 last season.
So yeah, I mean we've essentially got 4 defensive midfielders, if you want to call them, or just midfielders now. We've got Dyer, Dembele, Wanyama, and Winks, who was fantastic, really, really good. Turned into a right exciting little player. Reminds me, and don't fucking kill me for this either. Reminds me a little bit of Modric in as much as that he can find and get his way out of situations in the same way that Modric did at Spurs. So we have got 4 players there, but the problem is one of them's Dyer, and when we play 3 at the back, which we did for a lot of the season, Dyer needs to go into that 3. So then you're reduced to 3 players. Winks, you wouldn't say, is probably not ready for first team football every week in, week out. So you've got 2 starters. You've got Wanyama and Dembele. Dembele's been carrying injuries for his entire life. So he's never, I mean, he's brilliant. He's my favourite player at Spurs, but you can't rely on him to stay fit throughout the season. So you can actually, there is an argument. Silva's a bit of an odd one. I had to do some research, and he's excellent in being aggressive. He's not amazing with the ball at his feet. He chooses to pass short passes and to be practical with the ball rather than be inventive. And that strikes me similar as a similar player to Dyer in that he won't rake a 60-year ball. It's really recycling possession and.
Which doesn't sound interesting, but it's how most teams like Spurs, etc., are built. You've got to have a guy in there for whom just passing the ball simply is a thing. Yeah,
definitely. Certainly in that position. So it looks like for me that Dyer would be pushed back as a centre back, and Silva, if we were to buy him, the money's supposed to be around 27 million, which is a lot of money to pay for a 28-year-old. But you are buying a player in his peak at that age, so. We'll see. It'd be interesting to see what that does to Dyer, because Dyer doesn't really see himself as a centre back anymore. He wants to play in that midfield. So,
ideas above his station. Are you asked about the Kyle Walker thing if he goes?
Oh yeah, I love Kyle Walker. He's amazing, but I don't blame him for wanting to go. I think he's given us 8-9 years at Spurs. He's done a lot. He could earn so much money by going to Man City. So on that level, you can, and if we're being real, he's probably got much more chance of winning the Champions. Well, 100%, he's got much more chance of winning the Champions League with Man City than he has with Tottenham. He's got a really, really good shot at winning the league with both clubs. So I think it's about money for him, and I don't blame him with the game being what it is. He may well stay though. There's, like when fans bump into these players on holiday and they ask him, "You're not going, are you?" And he said, "No, I'm not leaving," to a couple of fans.
Because I don't
but what do you say? What do you No, I'm off, mate. Yeah. They've doubled my wages.
It's getting chucked off the booze cruise and on the Costa del Sol.
Yeah, so I would be upset in that respect. It'll be tricky for us to find another fullback as good as him, especially with his pace. He's so fast. But it is what it is. It's football.
Let's get into some questions then. Another one, similar theme to earlier on. The mighty ATHFC Aladdin Sane 27. Looking forward to the inevitable 45 million Ross Barkley on the last day as a panic buy.
Yeah, you can see that. That's going to be our panic buy signing. Ross Barkley. That said, it's not the worst.
Mate, I think you get something out of Ross Barkley. I really do. And having him and Dele Alli in the same team, that could be phenomenal. 45
I wouldn't be upset if that happened. I think 45 million for a player in the last year of his contract is insane. They're never going to be able to get that. So if it means waiting for him so that they don't lose, they're not going to want to lose him for nothing. 6 months sign, he can sign a pre-contract with someone else. It would make sense. I would say probably between 20 and 25 million would be a fair price.
Well, they're talking similar for Oxlade-Chamberlain, aren't they? So you'd imagine with a year left now, could be very interesting indeed. Let's see. Divo Afif asks, what do you think about King? I mean, you've already said it'd be a struggle for him because of the Harry Kane thing, but if you were to get that across the line,
I like him. I like him a lot. I can't profess to watch a lot of Bournemouth last year, but in terms of his youth and his willingness to get involved in the team outside of just scoring goals, I think he's a youngish, exciting player, and if we can pick him up for 30 million, sounds like a lot of dough.
30 million will sound like a lot of money until I think the real business kicks on in this window.
Yeah.
And 30 million is the new, I think, like 15 million.
Spurs love a player but for 15 million, and then 30 million seems like, there's just so much money around in football. And if money's changing around like that for everybody, there's a kind of parity that develops. So while you pay 20 million for Ake or 30 million for Josh King, you kind of make your money back elsewhere. So it's not a big problem. It's just sounds mad spending 30 million for a backup striker. And he said he doesn't really want to play second fiddle to Harry Kane, and I don't think there's a striker in the world at the moment that we could attract that would be better than Kane.
Yeah, absolutely. On the subject then, Josh Hall, OOX says, would you sell Harry Kane if a bid come in for 100? Well, it says 100 plus pounds, but I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that's 100 plus million.
No, absolutely not. I mean, what could we do with that 100 million?
You're back in Gareth Bale territory then again, aren't you? Where you maybe take 2 seasons to get yourself back to where you were.
Yeah, I mean, this is in response to, I'd imagine, the Man United thing, where they wanted to bid 100 million. The difference, say, with Bale and Kane is that he doesn't want to go. He's on the pitch. He's the captain, although Lloris is in goal. But it would take. He's just signed a new contract. He doesn't want to leave. He'd be regressing by going to Man United in terms of their first 11, whether or not they can win the league, because it doesn't seem like they played anything like last season they could. So it doesn't make any sense. They could probably pay him more than we could. But he's just signed a new contract. It would cost 200 million, and that's not saying he's worth that. He's not worth 200 million, but that's the compensation that they have to pay. So
that was like the old story that Danielson, if you remember him from back in the day, there was when you'd have to shut down 2 Spanish banks to pay his minimum free release clause.
I remember that. Yeah, he was a
needless to say, he never quite scaled the heights, did he? But no, you're dead right. I mean, there's no pressure on Spurs to sell Kane, and if there's no desire from the player either, then
you're dead in the water, really. On what kind of club would Spurs be if we accepted £100 million? You know, that of old would be something we've had to do, but we can't just finish second in the league. You're not going to sell, could be argued, the best striker in England. So where do you find another striker who's going to score 30 goals for three seasons on a bounce either? They just don't exist. So, no, 100 million, add another 100 million, and even then I wouldn't be interested. But that's probably what it would cost. Amazing.
Well, brilliant. Absolutely. Thanks very much. And yeah, hopefully some movement, some excitement, anything.
The thing with transfer windows, the speculation is as annoying as not hearing anything as well. Because you don't believe a single thing you read.
Absolutely.
So it's just...
Well, this is happening with Liverpool now, where they shut everything down in the wake of the Van Dijk stuff, and papers must just be seeing there like the click rates just plummet down. There's loads of like sub-editors just rocking backwards and forwards in companies up and down the country. So they're just starting to throw names out to see what.
Yeah, there's been some mad ones coming out. Naby Keita looks good, doesn't he?
Does, fingers crossed.
Is that, before we go, was that quote you're saying he wanted to play for a big club and didn't include Liverpool? Was that from 2 years ago?
I've no idea. It's best not to think. You know, sometimes you just forget to mention certain clubs when you're talking about things.
Yeah,
you know?
Probably.
Like and you know, as a Spurs fan. Anyway, thanks very much for watching the show. Subscribe by clicking the Ball Street emblem right there. And if you want to watch me talking to Nicky Hawkins from West Ham Fan TV about their transfer prospects and are they going to solve the problems with the stadium as well, click the video right there and I shall see you there. Ta-ra.
Did it together.
We need to fucking...
We did it together.
I thought we'd agreed.
I always do it.
Step on my fucking...
Sorry.
Step on my toes.
I'm sorry, but it's instincts. And I feel like
It was a good call.
I've developed a tactic now.
It's fine. You know what? I'm not even going to...
Apologies.
I'm not even going to overclap.
We've never done this before, just me and you, Paul.
Is that right?
No, never.